Welcome to our deep dive into the historical labyrinth of the Code Noir, a decree that once defined the very fabric of slavery within the French colonial empire, including its far-reaching shadows over Seychelles. Drafted by the order of King Louis XIV in 1685, this document, consisting of 60 articles, laid down the laws that would govern the lives, rights, and duties of slaves and their masters. Today, we unravel the 30 articles that historian Julien Durup highlights as particularly relevant to Seychelles, shedding light on a dark chapter of history, from the imposition of religion to the harsh penalties for escape attempts and the provisions for manumission. These laws paint a vivid picture of the systemic oppression and control exerted over enslaved people. As we explore these remnants of the past, we confront the enduring impacts of these laws on society and the very notion of freedom. Join us as we navigate through the complexities and legacies of the Code Noir, understanding its historical significance and the role it played in shaping the colonial world. The Code Noir was a decree passed by King Louis XIV of France in 1685 that defined the conditions of slavery in the French colonial empire, including Seychelles. The Code Noir consisted of 60 articles, but not all of them applied to Seychelles. According to historian Julien Durup, who wrote a book on the history of laws in Seychelles, the following 30 articles of the Code Noir were relevant to Seychelles. Article 1. All slaves must be baptized and instructed in the Catholic faith. Article 2. No other religion or public worship is allowed, and Jews are expelled from the colonies. Article 3. Slaves belonging to different masters cannot marry without their consent. Article 4. Children born of slave marriages follow the condition of their mother. Article 5. Free men who marry slave women and slave men who marry free women are subject to the penalties of the law. Article 6. Masters have the right to punish their slaves, but not to torture or mutilate them. Article 7. Slaves who strike their masters or their family members are liable to death. Article 8. Slaves who run away and are absent for a month are liable to have their ears cut off and be branded. If they repeat the offense, they are liable to have their hamstrings cut and be branded again. If they run away a third time, they are liable to death. Article 9. Slaves who are found armed or who have killed or wounded animals during their escape are liable to death. Article 10. Anyone who harbors or assists runaway slaves is liable to a fine and corporal punishment. Article 11. Masters who set free their slaves must declare it in front of a judge and register the act of manumission. Article 12. Slaves who are 40 years old and have served faithfully for 20 years can demand their freedom from their masters. Article 13. Masters who mistreat their slaves can be ordered by a judge to sell them. Article 14. Slaves can own property and enter into contracts with the consent of their masters. Article 15. Slaves cannot give evidence in court, except in cases involving other slaves or free people of color. Article 16. Slaves cannot be parties to civil suits, either as plaintiffs or defendants. Article 17. Slaves cannot make wills or inherit property. Article 18. Slaves are subject to the same criminal laws as free people, except for crimes that are punishable by fines or banishment. Article 19. Slaves accused of crimes must be tried by special judges appointed by the governor. Article 20. Slaves who are condemned to death must be executed within 24 hours of the sentence, unless they are granted a reprieve by the governor. Article 21. Slaves who are condemned to death for crimes against their masters must be tortured before execution. Article 22. Masters who kill their slaves by ill treatment or excessive punishment are liable to a fine and confiscation of the slave's body. Article 23. Slaves who are killed by accident or in self-defense are not subject to any penalty. Article 24. Slaves who are wounded or disabled by their masters are entitled to their freedom and compensation. Article 25. Slaves who are sick or injured must be cared for by their masters or by the hospital. Article 26. Slaves who are unable to work due to old age or infirmity must be maintained by their masters or by the hospital. Article 27. Masters who abandon their slaves are liable to a fine and the loss of their slaves. Article 28. Slaves who are sold or transferred must be notified to the authorities and registered in the public records. Article 29. Slaves who are brought from other colonies must be declared and registered within 3 days of their arrival. Article 30. Slaves who are born or die in the colonies must be declared and registered within 3 days of their birth or death. These articles show how the Code Noir regulated the lives and rights of slaves and their masters in Seychelles and other French colonies. The Code Noir was abolished in 1794 during the French Revolution, but was reinstated by Napoleon in 1802. It was finally abolished for good in 1848 by the Second Republic. As we conclude our exploration of the Code Noir, we reflect on a historical document that, through its 30 articles, starkly reveals the depth of control, deprivation, and injustice faced by enslaved individuals in the French colonial empire, including Seychelles. These laws, which dictated everything from religious practice to punishment, ownership rights, and the conditions of manumission, underscore the brutal reality of a system built on the exploitation and subjugation of human beings, abolished and reinstated until its final abolition in 1848. The Code Noir's legacy is a sobering reminder of the darkness that can exist in human governance and the enduring importance of fighting for justice and human rights. As we reflect on this chapter of history, let it inspire us to continue advocating for equality and dignity for all. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more content on this channel.